All right, let's get the lo-fi bot off. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Welcome back to another Discord AMA hosted by Doma. I'm joined today by Michael Ho. He is the co-founder of D3. How you doing today, Michael?
Hey everyone, good morning, good night, wherever you are.
Awesome. So, first time doing a Discord AMA in front of the community. I know a lot of people were excited for this. It's always fun when we have a co-founder on. As you could see, I don't know if you have the chat open, but the questions are flying in. But I wanted to start off just kind of like a
Love it.
background. When did you join? Or sorry, not when did you join? You're a co-founder. But what gave you the idea for starting D3 and Doma, and kind of when did you get into the space and your background and all that?
Sure, yeah, I have a background in financial services. I started my career at Goldman Sachs in San Francisco. Was working with a lot of fast-growing fintech and internet companies, and I was there for a few years, and then left and joined a venture investing firm where we did a lot of seed and Series A incubations with crypto-related projects back in the day. This is just around when Litecoin was taking off, know, post the 2017 cycle, and you had a lot of the projects like Facebook Libre attempt to kind of build stablecoin infrastructure, and we just saw the incredible velocity of capital in the space. And I've always been a fan of digital assets as well, and we saw kind of the first attempt of tokenized domain names, and I met my co-founder Fred at this event too, and he had brought his wealth of experience, and we decided to really try to drive change and solve a lot of the pain points of buying and selling domains. If you ever bought or sold a domain on the secondary market, you will know how much pain there is in terms of negotiating the price, creating an escrow, transfer delays. A lot of these things we thought blockchain was the perfect solution to solve. So it really stemmed from existing pain points from buying and trading these digital assets.
Awesome. So, what are you most excited for? Looking forward in the maybe near future, maybe medium term future for D3 and Doma.
I think what we're really excited to show is, to be one of the first projects out in the industry that is actually building and bridging Web 2 to Web 3. I think for us particularly, it's very important that we stay true to our roots and we solve the pain points that caused us to found this project, which is ultimately, when you're in the domain space or you own a domain, we want you to own a real one, right? And we want you to be able to use that both on the internet and in any blockchain namespace as well. So for us, it's about solving problems that will impact the most amount of people with real world utility.
Awesome. And finally, are you going to any conferences coming up? Is there any chance for our community to meet you?
Absolutely. As Doma is in testnet now and it comes to mainnet and launches with its product platform, we will be out in Asia as well. I think particularly the latter half of the year usually is the kind of Asia conference circuit. So we will be out at Japan Block Week. We'll be at Korea Blockchain Week, as well as Token 2049, and potentially Solana Breakpoint, one of our partners, Solana Foundation, as well at the end of the year.
Cool. You going to be speaking at those events or just like
Yeah,
invoking your
absolutely.
team?
The whole team will be there. I'll be there. Fred will be out there. Inder, our head of products. Most of our team is doxed in public, so we don't mind meeting. We don't mind meeting builders, traders, retail users. What we're building is, involves the best of Web 3 as well as the best of Web 2. So we'd love to meet anyone out there that's interested in DomainFi and what we're doing with Doma Protocol.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'm on here as Big Mike with a frog icon, but my photo is actually everywhere. If you if you try and look, you will find out who I am. It's not like a mystery. I'm not anonymous. All
If
right,
you dig
let's
deep enough, you'll be able to find everyone.
yeah, of course. Yeah. All right, let's start off with a question from Wandor. I gave him some slack because he wrote like 4 questions and it's like a novel, but I'll read the first question off for you because I like it. They said recently we had a strategic partnership with a registrar, Internet X, for domain tokenization. Do we plan to enter into similar agreements with other major registrars? And what other major industry partners do you consider essential for our mass adoption?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Domain names today, if you buy them, are actually custodied by registrars. Like Internet X controls a few, right? So a key part of our success is being able to onboard a lot of these Web2 platforms that support the trading of domain names, right? So what we're doing with Doma is actually enhancing the capability of any registrar or any user that is on that registrar. Internet X, for some of you that don't know, also controls CEDO, which is the largest aftermarket in the Europe region. So for us, it is about distribution. And more recently, I think we announced a few more registrars. Last week, we announced RumorWeb, which is Indonesia's largest registrar, and a few others. So there's going to be a long tail of registrars and some pretty well-recognized ones that are going to be announcing their integration onto Doma pretty soon. And all that really is a blockchain extension that they install that allows them connectivity to Doma, so that if you have bought or sold a domain name before and you have an account on that platform, you don't need to create a new one, if that makes sense. So you'll be able to self-manage your assets, tokenize them, bring them on chain directly from that registrar without it ever having to leave.
Awesome. Yeah, the whole goal again is bringing Web 2 to Web 3. And when I was speaking to people at Conviction, a lot of them were telling me that a lot of projects have strayed away from it. A lot of people think mass adoption is something too hard to achieve, but in reality, most of these projects are just building Web3 for Web3, and we're a lot different because we're building Web3 for Web2. I love the quote somebody said about our team that we're the most Web3, Web2 team he's ever seen, And do you feel
Yep.
the same way? Do you feel like in this industry, it's kind of everybody's kind of looking inward now?
Well, our initial captive audience was to solve these pain points for existing users. However, I don't think it's fair to just assume it's only Web2 users. I think Web3 users should be able to trade domains too, or buy and sell and use them. And ENS is a great example, right? Early in the days, with their efforts at trying to tokenize kind of a name server dedicated to the Ethereum blockchain. Web3 users demand utility too and identity. They also demand DeFi, right? So essentially what we're doing is not only catering to a Web2 audience, but a large part of our go-to-market for Doma is about building awareness, education for a Web3 native audience so that they can understand um, how amazing the domain economy is and to be able to participate. I mean, it really was, one of the lasting industries of the dot-com generation, and it's still around today. So we're super excited for the next 24 months and what's to come because of this new round of extensions that are coming out, and it's really going to shine a light on what we're building because it's at the intersection of the internet and blockchain.
Very cool. Yeah, it's cool. I wanted to make the joke that maybe we're bringing Web3 to Web2, but I'll pass on that one. But when I first joined crypto in like 2017, I met these group of guys that were jumping into altcoins like I was, and they were all former domain people. I mean, they probably still are domain people, but it seems like a huge industry a lot of us missed out on. And you hear the big names like chat.com and some of the other websites that get sold for millions of dollars, but there are a lot of domain investors that make good money, not crazy money, but they find good money in it. So it's great that we're introducing this to an audience that already understands the intrinsic value of different things and holding NFTs and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting industry to bring into crypto because I think it flows very well. All right. So our next question, I like this question. It may be a challenging one, but this one's from NeoFrag. They ask, imagine Twitter shuts down tomorrow and you have one single tweet left to convince the world that Doma and the Domaverse are the future. What are you going to write?
Ooh, that's a good one. If Twitter was to shut down, what would I write? Is that the question?
Yeah, you got one last tweet to convince the world that Doma is the future.
Well, I would direct them to a domain so that they could go and continue to discuss. um, I would say, TLD day is coming. We used to say this term internally because in the next 12 months, there's actually going to be the next generation of TLDs coming out, and we actually use this phrase when we initially talk to our partners like Solana Foundation. D-Day is coming, and you're going to see the convergence finally of a lot of these Web3 communities actually, getting connected to the internet through the creation of a new extension, which we're very lucky to be partners with both Solana, Avalanche, and a slew of L1s and L2s.
Very cool. Kind of on that same flow, we have a question from Fast10X, and they asked, what kind of technical mechanisms are we going to enable that will allow us to bridge Web 2 to Web 3 domains and like enhance the Solana base, Avalanche, Corvic,
Mhm.
all those? How do we enhance those?
I see this kind of in two categories, right? Number one, there's identity, which is a core underpinning of why domain names are valuable in the first place. Everyone trusts and uses the internet every day across any browser, any device. You don't really need SDKs, right? So I think I don't want to spend too much time on that because the value of domain names are very obvious, right? Um, and then number two, it's the liquidity component, right? The reality is that half of the folks or half of the domain names on the internet are not actually hosting a website, which means they're basically just custody at a registrar because of some implied future value, right? So people essentially buy and trade these like real estate, right? But for a long time, the liquidity in this space has been kind of constrained and trapped because it's been a closed ecosystem, right? Um, a lot of people don't know who owns the premium assets; they don't have access to it. So part of the thesis of Doma is to enable both utility but also liquidity through what we call composability, right? Doma enables one or multiple people to decompose ownership rights separately from usage rights, right? So we talk a lot about tokenization in our roadmap because essentially what allows domain owner to do is to use it for a variety of use cases, whether it's financialization or in the long term, more interoperable use cases like wallet mapping, like subdomain issuance, a variety of these things, right? And that's actually a large part of our vision for the Doma Forge program, which is our $1 million developer program, is we want people to come and build through, basically composability. And I know the word modular is kind of the old cycle, but it really is uh, a fundamental underpinning of what we're doing with Doma is we're making um, domain management modular, right? So if you want to put a price on a fractional share of ownership, you could do that, right? Can't do that today, but you can do it with Doma, right? If you want to synthetically issue one subdomain and give an AI agent right to that for a fixed period of time, you can do that through Doma, right? Through tokenization, right? Because the agent needs to hold that NFT, and you can't do that today, on Web two. So there's a lot of interesting, innovative use cases, but I would say first and foremost, it's about enabling cross-chain payments as well, right? Being able to use a domain as kind of a endpoint to receive and send cash through wallet mapping is something we're already doing on the DNS.
Love it. That's a huge one for me. That's one of the speaking points that really caught people is you make a meme coin and it actually links to the token address and it makes it very easy to find. You speak about, creating these decentralized tools and the grant, but there are a lot of tools that regular domains have and regular registrars. And I'm going to jump into the question from Pork Sausage. They ask, Web 2 registrars often include hosting services too. Do we plan to integrate any decentralized storage into our platform?
It's definitely in the roadmap. I would say we're first and foremost trying to solve for the financialization of these assets to make them easier to buy, sell, and trade. But the large part of the identity roadmap is enabling a lot of these integrations. Our perspective is we don't want to recreate things that have been doing very well in Web3, right? So if there's an existing decentralized storage solutions, like a great example is like Filecoin or Walrus or Iris, right? Domains should and can be able to integrate with these kind of solutions. We just need to see the demand there, and then developers capable of supporting that need.
Very cool. And we have a question from Zeus. He is already a Dopaminter, so he doesn't win this one. But uh, he asks, which DeFi protocol are you personally hoping to work with or maybe targeting to offer the lending, borrowing, and collateral services, not including Plume? Will they be more DeFi centric like Aave or Morpho, or RWA centric like Plume?
Well, one of the big visions for Doma is to make domains fungible assets, right? Which is a really great um, asset class to enable a lot of these DeFi native experiences. So protocols like Morpho or Aave are definitely on our roadmap because they support fungible tokens. And our belief is that when we can create more liquidity for these assets, whether it's one asset or a basket of them, it'll be pretty easy to integrate with platforms like Morpho or Aave, which are actually permissionless, right? So whether or not we have contact with their team, which we do, it doesn't really matter because once you have a fungible asset, it should theoretically be able to exist and integrate with these DeFi protocols.
Very cool. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of work on that behind the scenes. Very exciting stuff. So we have a question from Feliz, I think that's pronounced. They say, considering the bidirectional state sync between on-chain and ICANN, what specific mechanisms are we planning that will resolve race issues? For example, if an off-chain record updates before the blockchain transaction confirms, is there a last right wins rule or a designated source of truth?
Yeah, I would clarify in that point that it's the connection between the blockchain and the DNS server. ICANN, again, is just a kind of a policy body that's nonprofit. They just kind of make the policies and the rules, but the DNS server is kind of what we view. Their DNS and the registry is what we view as the source of truth because ultimately they delegate permissions for these internet assets, right? And if you think about our product strategy and our product platform, what we're basically enabling is kind of the registrars to become blockchain supported and blockchain enabled, right? So anyone that owns a NFT or a set of fungible tokens representing ownership still has to look back and tie directly into kind of the what's dictated on the DNS. So part of this is that domains are semi-permissioned assets. Even registry operators like VeriSign that control.com don't technically own .com. They have a perpetual license to operate it. So it is vis-a-vis akin to real estate ownership. However, I just want to clarify that specificity. So for us, it's very important to index on DNS as a master record of truth because again, that is where the value of domain names come from is the universal acceptance of the domain name. And that's actually a term, you can search it up on DNS and ICANN. It's universal acceptance. The fact that these assets are universally accepted anywhere on the internet is what provides it the underlying value.
Very cool. I actually learned a lot about ICANN this weekend, just listening to Fred and Mark, and I thought it was interesting. ICANN really have no restrictions on what website you want to make. It could be very offensive or, something to that extent. It's actually the registrars that will stop which domains you purchase, which I thought was pretty interesting. We have a question from Just Been Frank. They ask, you're entering a $350 billion domain market, but most domain owners don't care about blockchain. What's your concrete go-to-market plan for convincing even 1% of them to migrate in the first 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, simply put, it's by delivering them experiences and a value that they can't turn down, right? The whole prospect of being able to enable registrars to offer tokenization services to their users is about bringing greater utility and greater liquidity to the asset class, right? That doesn't necessarily always have to correlate to higher prices, but it could mean a fairer price, right? And it could mean faster time to market, faster time to liquidity. Those are the experiences we want to pioneer. I think we've talked a lot about fractionalization in our roadmap. Fractional ownership is a concept that we've been toying with for years now, and we think the market needs it for the right assets, right? Um, Never before have users in this generation been able to own a piece of hockey.com. I'll use that domain because it's on our blog. But we have thousands of assets like this that have been owned for over 10 years. If you actually go to their websites, the domain on the search browser, it's just a static landing page or it's a contact me address, right? But behind the scenes, we know the owners actually want some form of monetization and actually don't mind partial owners coming into the pool, right? Because they've been holding this for years. The carrying costs, can add up, and there's just a lot of money left on the table. So I think it's about creating new financial mechanisms that allow these domain owners to continue investing in new assets, acquire new assets, all the while enabling true forms of monetization, whether that comes from fractional domain listings, whether that comes from collateralization, loading and borrowing, bringing lease to owning, wholesale trading, buying and selling of domains as a whole, non-fungible token on chain and reducing the time to settlement. There needs to be perceived solutions that solve existing pain points. And, that's a little bit about what we're focused on. I won't talk too much about the future roadmap right now, but I think what's public is kind of what I shared already.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a great plan. And yeah, we're already seeing some traction in our growth of domain sales and all that. It's wonderful to see. We have a question from Jan, or maybe it's Jan. Currently, many projects are jumping on the Kaido slash info train or publicly collecting extra funds via launch pads. Is this something that's also planned for Doma, or will the current plan remain unchanged? They say, in their opinion, the current approach is clearly the best way to keep the community as is. So we haven't discussed a token, nor have we, mentioned anything about a token, and we won't today. So this is kind of, in terms of how we're growing our community, do you see us changing to kind of more of the typical way that some of the other projects are doing it, like kind of farming a lot of users or, trying to raise funds in various ways? Or do you think we're growing in a way that's sustainable and is like on track for our goals is kind of the question.
What we're focused on particularly is um, solving for one thing, which is how can we get as many people owning one or share of these premium real estate assets on the internet, domain names. Whatever method we have to use to get the broadest exposure, we will consider as long as it delivers return on kind of the investments, right? I think particularly for us, Doma, uh, you know, our mainnet is not, implying any sort of token launch. It's actually just the debut of our product, right? Which is a true integration on the DNS, right, with the internet. So for us, we want an audience that wants to learn about domains, is interested in the value of these, whether you're a domain investor or whether you actually want to buy a domain. These are the type of experiences we want to create and essentially eventually promote. Um, and if we have to explore other platforms, we'll consider doing so. I do want to thank the early audience, our early community. We're just getting started. There's just so much more on the roadmap that we haven't unveiled yet, and you guys have been really great supporters in the Discord, on Twitter. I'm really excited because we're about to 10x the the amount of which we ship in the next 60 days, and it's only going to benefit the end users.
Amazing. Amazing. Yep, I am so excited for everything that's coming, just products and partnerships and growth plans. It's a very exciting project to work for, I have to say. Probably one of the best. I just want to say real quick that I am jumping around in these questions. I'm trying not to just go from who asked first. I am really bouncing around. But I do see a lot of people copying and pasting answers. So if somebody did win a role and they stole your question, let me know and we can find it in the chat. It's very easy to track. Somebody did ask a good question about ICANN, if I can find it now. But essentially, the question was, what happens if ICANN changes their policies? What would happen to their domains?
Well, ICANN doesn't technically own domains. They delegate their rights for registry operators to, control a domain extension, and registrars, they give them the license to distribute domains. Um, is the question around their perspective around blockchain, or is there a more specific verbiage?
I think it's kind of like just a fear of being rugged if like a policy changes.
I
Are they
see.
going to lose their domain?
No, that's a great question. Um, if it's tokenized on Doma, no, because number one, we've designed this in compliance with ICANN, and we attend every ICANN conference. Um, in fact, we're frequently on stage promoting, blockchain as a added utility, blockchain standards, tokenization standards. Everything we do is capable of being supported by registries and registrars. So we don't do anything out of the ordinary path. Our thesis is that we want to extend distribution before we can enhance and innovate new methods on top of that. So for us, it's very important to remain close to these stakeholders on the infrastructure side that are only going to promote great use cases for us. And ICANN itself is a policymaking org. They don't make execution level decisions. They are mainly concerned about protecting the safety and the openness of the internet. That's actually their mission. Is that it's not about enforcing who can register what. It's about making sure the internet is safe and open and accessible to everyone.
Awesome. I was looking for that question the whole time and still didn't find it, but I will find
No,
out
it's a great
who.
question. It's a great
Yeah,
question. And a lot of our institutional partners had that same question too, but we have to reassure them that, ICANN is kind of similar to like optimism. They're very retroactive, right? So if the community really embodies DomainFi and what we're doing on chain, they will start to recognize kind of blockchain standards as an up and coming trend. And that's exactly what we're set out to do.
cool. ICANN people sound really cool. I want to meet them sometime.
Well,
All
you
right,
can
we
go
have
to a
like,
conference. ICANN conferences are open to the public. I mean, the internet is free and accessible. They probably have a meeting once every quarter, at least, if not more. You can basically go to, I think, icann.org and search up their latest conference. You'll probably see us there as well.
I think I have to upload my ID to see icann.org from England. No, I'm just kidding. All right. We have a question from Rookie. Which question was it? Oh, it's how does Doma plan to overcome regulatory challenges when integrating multi-chain tokenization, which could potentially go to different countries or different domain laws?
Yeah, our perspective is, the KYC restrictions come into play when someone wants to use the domain for the purpose of spreading information. Um, so for us, there's going to be certain ways in the blockchain where you can permissionlessly, or the use of ZK technologies, for example, KYC yourself. Um, it's just part of the rules. However, if you're just a domain investor in that category, or what we think the Web3 audience is going to be, which is just a kind of more DeFi native audience, um, commonly there's going to be KYC less ways that are frictionless, that enable you to own the tokenized version of these assets without actually having to have an account at a registrar, for example. So that's one of the things that we're really excited to roll out is allowing more people to own and access these assets without having to go through the friction, the huge friction of creating multiple accounts at different kind of retail interfaces. Kind of like a DApp integration, right? It's like all the marketplaces now. It's just semi-permissionless. You just connect a wallet. You don't need anything else. We achieve or and aspire to kind of show that same experience, you know, on the blockchain.
Awesome. We're talking about domains and we're talking about different tools in DeFi and everything, but Ara asked a good question. They say, it can be tokenized, it can be traded, it can be used as collateral, but ultimately, and I want to ask this because I know you have a background and you've researched the industry. They ask, is there any reward or benefit to simply owning a domain?
I mean, that's a large and loaded question. Is there any reward? It kind of depends on the objective, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, when companies start, the first thing they look for is a domain name, typically a .com or in Web3 a .xyz. In AI, it's a .ai domain, right? Being able to own and achieve that identity actually creates a lot of brand value, right? We know people spend millions of dollars on these assets, typically behind the scenes. Um, on the kind of DeFi native side, there are a large cohort of folks that we consider domain investors. They're basically acquiring this like real estate, right? So, domains are just internet real estate. So I would say the benefits are almost vis-a-vis like what you get by owning, you know, actual real estate, which is you can use it, you can lease it, you can rent it, um, you can fractionalize it, right? Um, if you're a domain investor, there's obviously financial return involved with that.
Yeah, I've been trying to educate the public. With a domain, you can always start your own personal brand or business. You can squat on it to trade later, but yeah, it's the internet. You can do anything with a website, right? So it really depends on not just your name, but what you plan to do with it. Anyone can create anything with
It's your
websites.
identity, right? And with
Yeah,
blockchain, it's only going to become a greater source of truth, right? Not only is it a website, but it can also be your wallet eventually, one or multiple wallets, in fact, right? So pretty soon, if you use Venmo or GrabPay or any other payment app, you'll just be able to enter your domain name without needing to copy and paste an Ethereum address. And um, you know, working right now to make this a universal DNS standard.
definitely. Okay, a question on some of the potential tech coming to Doma. Nest asks, will domains be connected with AI? Will we have some sort of integration, or maybe they'll be filtering with AI?
Could you be more specific with that question? Like, what does that mean when you say integrate with AI?
Yeah, I can't really speak for Nest, but you know, having the ability to, yeah, I won't answer for Nest. I'll let Nest follow up with that one.
I would
Let's
say there's 2 points, right? Yeah, I think with the kind of rise of agents, our view is that agents will still need a human readable identifier, right? And if you're an agent operating across multiple paradigms on the internet, on blockchain, you're going to need kind of an ID, right? And who's going to define this ID, right? Every blockchain, every L1, we see a slew of L1s focused on AI. They're all going to have their own identity mechanisms on their own chain, but there's no true cross chain identity right now. And then instead of creating a new primitive, you can just use domain names, right? So for us, we absolutely think this is completely relevant to this kind of future generation of agents on chain. They're going to need a domain name, right? And I think this is, a contributing factor to why we see a resurgence in .ai domain registrations, which is one of our strategic partners. They actually own and operate that namespace, or they have the commercial rights to it. .ai. So very profitable. A lot of users. AI names are hot right now. So definitely there is a future with AI plus domains.
Awesome. I have another regulatory question. I don't know if you know this one off the top of your head, but Drill 44 asks or says regulatory alignment matters. How do you plan to reconcile on-chain ownership with legacy processes like UDRP, trademark disputes, and ICANN timelines? And what transparency escalation path with response times will users see when they take down requests or ownership conflict appears?
It's a great question. We definitely adhere to UDRP ourselves. Um, you know, D3, which is one of the contributors and developers to Doma, is an ICANN accredited registry operator as well as a registrar um, for the basically marketplace needs. Um, Although our intention is to actually serve other registrars, we definitely enforce this. If you think about what we're doing, it is basically Doma is the on-chain issuer of a token that represents ownership of the asset at the registrar. So UDRP requests can still be supported, and in fact, will be honored, right, based on how our protocol is designed. So there are mechanisms to enforce that, but as you correctly identified, or you may know, for the person asking the question, these are pretty much edge cases, right? This is basically, these arise when there's trademark disputes or there's abuse of a domain. So in any form or fashion, it's just like a government intervening if it needs to. So on the blockchain, we've built this to kind of honor the rules set forth by the registrars because they are the ones empowering this entire network of assets.
Yeah, it's amazing hearing some of the other registrars or some of the people trying to kind of copycat us, and they don't lock their domains, so you can literally just go buy them on another registrar, even though you bought them on their platform. Crazy, but I know we follow the rules, and yeah, we'll do the best we can for conflicts and making sure everything runs smoothly. Let's see. I think we got. I don't know how many questions I've gone through, to be honest. um, but we'll keep going because we got time. So the next question is from Van Hung, and this is perfect because we literally just got off this meeting. But they ask, what key metrics will determine the success of the current testnet? Are there specific KPIs in terms of users, transactions, or community growth?
Yeah, I think those are the right metrics. First and foremost, we want to make sure we have a sizable Web3 audience that is interested and ready to engage with our products. Um, the testnet metrics are really, testnet is just an environment for us to make sure that our blockchain has almost 100% SLA service times. We want to make sure when we go live, there are real world impacts for the businesses that we're partnering with, right? These registrars. So for us, it's important to show that we can bring net new users that are actually transacting on chain, that are interacting with the chain. There's wallets being registered. So I think they're kind of the ordinary metrics that you would expect to see, but obviously we have our own intention, and it's really just to make sure that the experience is high integrity, and users have a high quality experience on the chain. So when we actually launch the real tokenization, there will be no flaws or gaps. And so far we're tracking very well, and I think we're very impressed with the amount of traction and interest from the community with such organic efforts.
Yeah, definitely. This is such an amazing community. I love working with them. We just continue to grow. I mean, every day we're growing, but people are here, they're helping, they're loving it, they're creative, they're minting really unique domain names. I think we're gonna have a whole, we might bring a whole bunch of people out of crypto into the domain world. We'll see.
That's amazing.
um,
And yeah, I'd encourage everyone to go to a registrar and pick up their domain. There's a lot of domains, especially .coms that go for $1 for the first year. But yeah, if you dig a little deeper, there's definitely needles within the haystack.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Diamonds
Well,
in the
I
rough.
don't.
Sorry, that was the analogy I wanted to use. Not needles in the haystack. Diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a rough find. Okay, so we have a question from Excellent Cheeses. They ask, who are domain fractions for? If a domain is fractionalized, what can each holder actually do, and what are the coolest use cases you're looking forward to? And I have my own, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, long term, I think this is going to be a permissionless platform, Doma itself. what we're working on right now is a set of fractionalization primitives that create a standard for how premium domain owners can basically monetize or achieve some form of partial liquidity or price discovery, rather. Um, right now, beyond the investing angle, we are exploring a lot of identity implementations. For example, owning a certain threshold that enables you to, like the usage of a subdomain, for example. There is, basically permissionless ways to manage domain in the long term. It kind of depends on the owner, right? Again, the power is in the owners of the assets, and fractionalization exists to support the financialization of it. There is a market, right, to buy these. It's just like if you think about a REIT, a real estate investment trust, right? Why do people buy fractions of shares in that? Why do people buy fractions of shares in Apple? So in that sense, we kind of um, align with those kind of first principles. But I'm pretty confident long term there's going to be multiple standards of fractionalization. One could include the management of the actual domain by a DAO, for example, or a community of owners. Right now, to keep it straightforward, we're very focused on domain fi in itself, so DeFi for domains, and enabling these existing owners of these super premium assets like hockey.com to introduce new stakeholders that are interested in holding these assets for a period of anywhere from 6 to 60 months, rather. Yeah.
Interesting. And we have a question about like some of the like products or tools that we're bringing. This comes from Tushar. They ask, how are you planning to support more complex use cases like subdomain leasing and fractionalized ownership? Is this something that will be baked into the core protocol, or is it something you see as an extension?
Yeah, that's a great question. These primitives are part of our composer modules, which will enable the development of these interfaces. Our Doma is purpose built for the domain industry, so these are exactly the type of use cases that we want to support, which is domain management and domain usage rights. So they will be part of the core protocol. There just needs to be kind of a app layer interface that supports kind of these functionalities.
Awesome. Okay. I think we've definitely gone through 10 questions, and I can't just keep giving out dopaminters forever. So we will wrap this up here. Let's do a little outro, though. I want to say everyone that's participating in the test net or the Galaxy campaigns right now, with the test net side, I do know there are some issues on the claiming side and sometimes on the buying side. The devs are looking into it. So if you are having issues, just remember that you do not need to claim it for the quest, for the Galaxy Quest. You can just buy the domains that fit the criteria, and that's good enough. You don't need to claim it. Second of all, we will have another AMA on Thursday with Nishant. We're going to be covering the Doma Forge, and I see a lot of questions in here about the Doma Forge. We're actually going to be inviting some of the people from Doma Forge. I don't know if they'll come on stage, but hopefully. And yeah, Michael, anything you want to hype the community up on that's coming out soon?
Thank you guys so much for being a part of our early community. We're very excited to show you in the next 4 to 8 weeks what we have cooking. There's going to be a lot to interact with, a lot to do, and definitely want to make sure anyone participating on testnet is taken care of in the community. So we look forward to your continued involvement. Keep sending us that feedback. And importantly, we all want you to win in the domain industry and the domain economy with Domain Fi. So a lot of the use cases that we'll come out with, we hope to get you guys access to the premium assets in this space in the right way. So we're super excited.
Bullish, yeah, like Ehor said. Yeah, once again, one last reminder, if I did jump around. I know people copy paste questions, so if you did ask a question first, please reach out to an OMAD so they can check it out, and then I can verify, and then we can give the role to the person who asked it first and not the copycat. But yeah, thank you once again, everyone who showed up. This is our largest one yet. We keep growing every week. And I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. And thank you again, Michael. I know you've been very busy making time to come to the community. We really appreciate it, and we hope to have you back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. GM.
All right. Bye, everyone.